Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Mallikarjun. Today is going to be a quick session on the basic understanding of our database concept, and basically I'm gonna call it as a Oracle database understanding for dummies, right? This is gonna be like uh, pure basic sessions where who is new to Oracle database, who is new to Oracle DBA world. So for them, how they are gonna do the day in and day out activities as a DBA, what basics they have to understand for the database in order to support as a DBA. So what are the basic checks? What are the basic commands to do it at your customer environment or the client environment in order to make sure that your database is up and running and your database you have to familiar with that particular database. What are the basic commands you're going to check it out? What are the basic commands you're going to run it at on the customer environment? So that's all we're going to see it in this particular today's session. Right, so that is going to be interesting topics, and purely this is going to be dummy sessions for the one who are very new to this Oracle DBA world. Right, so uh, first we'll start with the database architecture. So already a couple of sessions I've taken on architecture in my channel. I request you to go back and then check for my channel for more details on the architecture part. And then this is going to be questions and answer session. This is going to be like question and then the answer for that. I'm just going to cover only questions and answers. So first questions, what is my database server? Database server is nothing but your database instance plus database. Combining together, it will make you database server. That's going to be your Linux server, that's going to be your RHL, that's going to be your Oracle Enterprise Linux, or your Ubuntu, or your Oracle Solid, any server, like whichever the Linux server, whether it may be Windows server, where you install your database, that become your Oracle database server, and then where you are running your database instance plus the database. So that's a simple answer. Database server is nothing but your instance plus a database. And then what is your database instance? So database instance is nothing but a set of memory component plus your background process in order to operate, in order to facilitate the connection from end user to your database. So your instance is mandatory. So instance is nothing but combination of your memory plus background processes. Memory might be your SGA, PGA, and then subcomponent of SGA and subcomponent of PGA. And then the background process, a bunch of background processes like SMON, PMON, log writer, DB writer, and checkpointer, archiver, so many processes. So all combining together, it will form your database instance. So database instance is kind of a mediator which act as a mediator between the end user or application connection to your backend database. And then you may ask, what is database then? Database are nothing but your actual backend data files where business data or end user data is going to reside. So this is going to be a backend data file storage or database. And then you have a specific instance and which act as a mediator for the client connection to your database. And then your instance is nothing but memory plus background processes. So that's a simple answer for these two questions. And then going further, I'm not going to cover about any of this memory component or any of your background processes because I already covered many sessions on our channel. So one who has missed these sessions, you can go back to YouTube and then search for Malik 034. Let's go back to your YouTube, search for Malik 034, and then search for any of those previous session, whichever you missed it. I'm not going to cover as part of this session here. And then again, at the backend data files or database are nothing but comprise of many data files or many control files or many archive log files, redo log files, parameter file, password file, temp file, alert log file, trace file, so many things. So all are like your storage system or the file system or the backend database. So in order to access your database or data files, your instance act as a mediator, and then any client or end user can connect to your instance and then they can access your database. Right, going further, next third question, uh, how to find how many databases are running on a server? The simple command, you just go ahead and do ps-ef grep smon or pmon, any of the background process, you can check it out. I said like smon, pmon, dbrator, logwriter, your checkpointer, any process, any background process, just do ps-ef grep smon or pmon, you will see how many databases you're running on this particular server. So if I go ahead and then run on one of my server, this is one of my lab server here. If I run it, I'm going to get a DevDB. One of the database is running here on this particular server. In this example, I can see ORCL and then ORCDB, two database we're running. And then the fourth question, how to connect your database instance. For example, ORCL is your database instance, how to connect to that particular database instance, how to connect to that database. In this particular example here, I have a DevDB, how to connect to that particular database, how to connect to that particular database instance. So for that, you need to log into that particular user who is the owner for that user. Like DevDB is the database and then Oracle is the owner for that. You have to switch to that particular user first, and then you have to set the environment for this particular database instance. For that, you have to type dot space var-env, and then you have to give this devdb, and then you have to verify the environment is set properly by using env pipeline grep capital vara. So that will tell you Oracle SID, that's the instance ID, Oracle base, that's your Oracle base, and this is your Oracle home. So once these three parameters are set, you can simply use SQL plus / as sysdba, and then it should say connected to your database 19c, 12c, 11g, whatever the versions you have it, and then you will be prompted to your SQL command prompt. So that's a way you can connect your database, right? So that's a fourth question, how to connect your database. And then fifth question, after connecting to your database, how to verify what database you are connected and what's the database name. The simple command you can use select name open mode from your database. That's a simple query. You can run it out. It will tell you're connected to DevDB name, which is in read write mode. And then fifth questions, what are my Oracle homes? Right. So I said in order to connect your database here, you have to set your SID, Oracle base, and Oracle home. What is your Oracle home? Oracle home is nothing but the software provided by your Oracle corporations. You have to download that Oracle software from Oracle eDelivery or Oracle OTN site, and you have to install that binaries here. Once you install that binaries, so those are your executable libraries, binaries, which will help your Oracle instance to operate. PSIFNEF grep smon. This is your Oracle instance. Your Oracle home is nothing but it's a set of executable binaries or libraries provided by your Oracle corporations. You have to download them and you have to unzip over here on the server. And then with the help of those binaries, you're going to create your Oracle instance. And then in order to operate this particular instance, those binaries are mandatory. If I go inside my Oracle home here and then do ls, so these are your set of binaries and executables, everything we're going to see it over there. Right, and then next question, how many database or how many instances I can create on a single Oracle home? So I said this is my Oracle home. How many databases, how many instances I can create here? I can create n number of database instances on this particular Oracle home because there is no limitations. You just install these binaries and you can create a number of instances on this particular database. And then how to find how many database were installed on a particular server, or how many instances are running on that particular server. For example, do command psifnef grep smon, which will tell you, which will tell you how many instances were running on this particular server. DevDB, VaraDB, VaraCDB, TestDB, whatever that you can see it over, with how many database instances are running on this particular server. And then how many database instances are installed on this particular server can be found using cat etc vara tab. Cat etc vara tab will tell you, cat etc vara tab will tell you how many database were configured on this particular server. I can see DevDB, DB, and DB12C. So these are the three databases were installed on this particular server, which are installed on this particular single Oracle home. But as of now, I can see only one Oracle database is running. That's the DevDB. Remaining DB and DB12C both are shut down. So that is why it is always mandatory to maintain your Oratab files properly with the correct information. If you wrongly mention wrong database details and wrong Oracle home here, and then anybody can look at this particular Oratab, they'll wrongly assume that this particular database is configured on this particular server. So always it is recommended to have a proper etc Oratab files. Don't ever mention any wrong entry or wrong detail inside your etc Oratab. Right, so that's the thing. Question number 9, is there any limit on number of databases files in a database, and how to find out how many data files are available in my database? So first question, is there any limit for number of data files? No, there are no limit of number of data files. You can create a number of data files inside your database. And then how to find out how many data files are available in my database? You can do your DBA data and DBA underscore data underscore file, which will tell you how many data files you can, this particular database has it. So I can just connect back to my SQL plus command prompt here. And then I can run the same command, select count star from DB underscore data underscore files. So there's 11 data files are created for this particular database. And again, I said there's no limitation for number of data files. Again, in your control files, you have a maximum limitation set. Once you reach, you cannot create any more data files. You have to recreate your control file and you have to increase your number of data files. So just keeping that aside, just to think in a layman terminology. So there is no limitations for having number of data files. You can create a number of data files for your database. So is there any limit for size of each data files, and how to find out my current database size? So obviously, you have a limitation for your data file sizes based upon your block size, your database block size, 8K, your database block size, 16K, your database block size is 32K. Based upon that, you have a limitation of the size of your data files. Start with like 32 GB and then 64 GB and then 128 GB. There's a limitation for each of your block size, your database block size. Based upon your block size, the default block size is 8K. If your database is of 8K block size, and maximum you can create 32 GB data files. So if I say show parameter block, and then this is my block size 8K, DB block size, which is 8K. If your database having that block size equal to 8K, and then you can maximum create 32 GB data file size. And then how to find out what's the size of my database? So you can run this particular query, which will be like sum of your DB and data files and some other a combination of joins of tables, and then you're going to get size of your database. Right, so enter to continue. Okay, these are your data files and how much size, and then how much is used, and then how much is free, and then percentage used. So like it's a 1 MB file, 1200, like it's a 1 GB file, and then 0% is used, and then almost all is free. And then these are like almost 1.5 GB file. Almost all is used, only 76 MB is free. You can see all of these files, and then how much is used and how much is free, and then how much percentage it is used. All you can verify it over here. And then is there any limit to total size of my database, and how to find the total size of my database? So this query, whatever I ran it to find out all the individual database data file size. And now the next question is there any limitation to size of my database? No, there's no limitation to size of your database. You can create a number of data files, and combining together, it will form your number and size of your database. You can grow as big as you want. And then how to find out your database size? So you can use this select sum of byte 10 to 4, 10 to 4, 10 to 4 as a DB from your VDL or from your DB underscore data underscore file, which will give you your actual, it will give you the database size. So if I run this one, right, so this is your actual database size, so 4.1 gig. And then there's a other way to find out using DB underscore segment. You can run DB underscore segment, which will give you how much size is occupied by your database. If I run here, there is 2.3 gig is the actual size of your database, and then 4.2 gig is the size of your database based upon your data files, and then including your free blocks and then the occupied blocks. So DB underscore segment is only that actual database size. And the next question number 12, how many Oracle database or database servers I can install on a host? If you see in this particular server, I have only one particular database or one particular database instance running. And then, but if you check etc or a tab, and then I have created 3 database instance or 3 database on this particular server. And then is there any limit on this particular server to create number of database instance or databases? Absolutely, answer is no, because these number of databases or number of instances are purely depends upon how much of memory, how much of CPU, and how much of resources available on this particular server, right? So that's a limitation. Only make sure that you have enough resource, enough CPUs, and enough memory on this particular server, and you can go ahead and create a number of databases or instances on this particular server. Right. So that's about question number 12. And question number 13, can I have instances and databases on a different server? Yes, you can have instances and database on different server. For example, you can run the database instance here in this particular Oracle Lab 1. If I do psif PS1 once again, this DevDB is running under this particular Oracle Lab 1. And then your database or data files, you can have it in any of the remote server using SAN, NAS, NFS, or Isilon, or whatever NetApp, or whatever the storage you want. Or you can have it. So the answer is you can have it. Right. So again, there's a different topics I discuss in my channel about startup sequence, shutdown sequence, what are the dependencies and all. So you can just go through that missing topics in my YouTube channel. I'll proceed with the questions again. Question number 14, what's the SP file and P file location? That will be under your Oracle Home DBS location. So Oracle Home DBS location is the one where you can see your SP file and P file location. SP file. So if I do SP file star. So these are your SP file. SP file db12c, SP file db, and then SP file devdb.org. These are the three SP files. And then LL init star. So these are your init file for this particular database, init devdb.vara. So I just took a backup of that. So your Oracle Home, use your own app, Oracle product, 19C DB Home 1 DBS. That's a one. Inside this DBS, you'll see all those SP file and then the P file locations. P file will be both are resides on this particular location, right? And then next question, question number 15. What's your database startup sequence? What's your database startup sequence? So basically, your database has a 3 to 4 modes or 3 to more startup sequences, from shutdown to no mount to mount to open. So these are like three different, 4 different steps. You can see here like shutdown, no mount, and open. And each of these steps needs a different file. So from shutdown to no mount, you need a SP file. From no mount to mount, you need a control file. From mount to open, you need all the data files and then the read logs. So if I do psif psmon, I have this ORCL database, or the other database is like Vara CDB. So I'm just going to set it to Vara CDB, env gep Vara, like Vara CDB, my Oracle base and my Oracle home. And then I can use from no mount. I'll go to no mount SQL plus SSDBA. It'll initially says connected to idle instance because your database is right now shutdown state. And then will do startup no mount. It will allocate your memory and then background processes, and you can verify this particular query. Select instance name status from other instance. It will say Vara CDB, which is started. Started means that will be your no mount state. Using your SP file, your database is started and which is in no mount state. And then you can do alter database mount. So which will go from no mount to mount mode. If I come back here, alter database mount, it will be like altered. If you do select instance name status from middle instance, Vara CDB, which is in mounted mode, right? So you went it from no mount to mount, and then now from mount to open mode, I can do alter database open here. Alter database open, it says database altered, select instance name status from middle instance, your Vara CDB, which is in open mode. You can check select name open mode from middle database, and then that will also will tell you Vara CDB, which is read write mode. So that's a simple indication of how you can verify your database modes, right? And then um, we all know that our SP file and P file both are located under DBS location. If I have SP file and P file under my Oracle Home DBS location, while starting my database instance, which one will be picked up, whether SP file or the P file? So simple answer, SP file is a binary formatted file. Nobody can edit and nobody can read that one. Init P file or init file is your text formatted file. Anybody can read and anybody can write that one. That's a simple answer. If you have SP file and P file, both are available in DBS location. The moment you do startup, or the moment you do startup no mount, or the moment you do startup mount, whatever mode your database you start it, first it look for your SP file, and if the SP file is not available, it look for the P file, and if the P file is not available, it will throw an error message that unable to locate your P file, and then your database instance will not start. If you see like PWD or Oracle Home and Vara LL star Vara, I have my SP file, I have my P file, everything is available here. PSFNF mount, nothing is running here. I'll do SQL plus assist DBA connected to idle instance. The moment I do startup or startup no mount or startup mount or just startup, whatever the mode, whatever the mode you start your database, it'll just start it. And then if you do show parameter SP file, which will give you whether it started with your SP file or the P file. You can see this is started with your SP file. And then again, if you do instead of SP file, if you do show parameter P file, and then that also still pointing to your SP file, because once your database instance is started with SP file, you can use this command show parameter SP file or show parameter P file, and then it will give you your exact SP file location, which SP file will be used for your instance to start. Right, so that's one thing. And then question number 17, how to start your database using P file. You have P file in some other location or in some custom location, you want to start your database using that particular P file. You can use like startup P file and then the P file name. So this is your Oracle home, PSFNF GetPassmon, nothing is running here. That Vara CDB is not running here. LL Vara CDB. And then you can pretty much use this SQL plus DBA, which will tell you that connected to idle instance. You can use the startup P file, and then you can provide that P file location. It's going to start your database. And then once your database is started with the P file, if you do show parameter P file or show parameter SP file, you don't see any output here. If you don't see any output, means your database is started with your P file. Right, so that's other indication. And then question number 18, can I create a P file from SP file or SP file from P file? Yes, of course, you can create a P file from SP file or SP file from P file. The simple command is show parameter SP file, which will tell you it started with SP file. And then you can use this create P file from SP file. From the SP file, it's going to create the P file. That's a file created. So you can see that init file that's created here. And then you can start your database with the P file, and your database instance is database started here with the P file. You can verify show parameter P file. You don't see any output here. It means your database started with the P file. Now you can do create SP file from P file. You have to mention that P file location. You can see your SP file will get created here. The moment you go into a DBS location, do LSF and LTR, you can see the latest file, SP file got created here. So that's a simple way to create your P file and SP file from P file from SP file and SP file from P file. Right, and then other question number 19, what are the Oracle database log mode, and then how to check current log mode for my database, and then how to switch your Oracle log mode. Oracle has two log modes. One is ORCL log mode and the other one is the no ORCL log mode. We can convert this ORCL log mode database to no ORCL log mode or no ORCL log mode database to ORCL log mode during mount phase of your database state, mount mode of your database state. Right, so if you see select name log mode for video database or a CDB, which is an ORCL log mode. So I'm going to convert database ORCL log to no ORCL log mode, like select name log mode from middle database, which will say Vara CDB, which is an ORCL log mode. I'll just set it down my database, and then I'll start database in mount mode, startup mount. Your database instance is started here and your database is mounted here. So you can see now you can run alter database no ORCL log mode. Database is altered, and then do alter database open. So it's a database is altered. Now you can query that same command, select name log mode from middle database, Vara CDB, which is in no ORCL log mode. So now your database is no ORCL log mode. You can convert this no ORCL log mode database to ORCL log mode. No ORCL log to ORCL log, like select name log mode from middle database, Vara CDB, which is in no ORCL log mode. You just shut down your database and then do a startup mount. Your database instance started here and database mounted here. And you can use a simple command alter database ORCL log, which will convert from no ORCL log mode to ORCL log. And then alter database open. You can query the database, select name log mode from middle database, Vara CDB, which is in ORCL log mode. So that's a conversion of your log modes from ORCL log to no ORCL log mode or no ORCL log mode to ORCL log mode. Right. So again, I'll stop it here, and then in our next session we can continue with the further questions and answers. Until then, thank you guys. Take care. Bye bye.